All right, man, peace. So, retired NBA great and future Hall of Famer Kobe Bryant recently sat down to discuss the re-release of the sneakers to commemorate his legendary 81-point game against the Toronto Raptors, as well as his opinions on whether or not he should be involved in recruiting the marquee players that will bring the LA Lakers back to prominence. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Hey, the Greek Freak says he wants to work out with Kobe this summer. Not sure if you're aware of this, but Kobe once worked the Raptors for 81 points. People love to remind Jalen Rose of that night any and every chance that they get. Not like Jalen scored, or Kobe scored all 81 on Jalen, just 20 on 7 of 10 shooting. Most people.
Let me say this quickly. I believe that Kobe's 81 points is probably the most impressive single scoring game in NBA history for a regular season.
Hey, the Greek Freak says he wants to work out with Kobe this summer.
And that's a great idea for the Greek Freak. He needs to diversify his offensive game. He needs to work on where he should be pulling up for his mid-range jumpers pertaining to how the defense is playing him. He also needs to work on his long-range shooting. So Kobe would be a great player for him to pick his brain from.
Not sure if you're aware of this, but Kobe once worked the Raptors for 81 points. People love to remind Jalen Rose of that.
And let me say this about Kobe Bryant's 81-point game. I think that it's probably the greatest single-game offensive performance in the regular season by any player ever. I would put that over Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. Number one, because the game is not on film, so it cannot be verified exactly how outstanding the performance was. But number two, Kobe Bryant is not 7'1", 7'2", with a 45-inch vertical like Wilt Chamberlain was, dominating players. I'm not one of these guys who's going to talk about how the players back in the 60s were inferior and they were smaller. A lot of that is narrative. There were great centers back then as well. Wilt deserves his just due as a dominant force. And as I've stated in previous videos, Wilt Chamberlain was still dominating pickup games in the 80s. He would play against Magic Johnson and many of the top college basketball players at UCLA back in the mid-80s. Players like Byron Scott and James Worthy would testify to Wilt Chamberlain's physical exploits in those games. Still in his early 50s, he was dominant on the basketball court. So Wilt Chamberlain is easily the greatest athlete to ever come through the NBA. Not because he was necessarily the highest leaper or the broadest leaper, but at his height and his size, he could do things that LeBron James and Michael Jordan did with the hand size and with the unbelievable vertical leap. And he was a quick leaper as well. But I would still put Kobe Bryant's 81-point game over Wilt Chamberlain. I'll never forget the night that he did that. I could not believe what I saw on the ticker as it ran underneath the sports report. It said Kobe Bryant 81 points. I couldn't believe that shit. So I give him credit. In regards to a regular season performance, to me that's the greatest single game scoring regular season performance that I've ever seen. It's probably not the most impressive game that I've ever seen, but as far as scoring, definitely his 81-point game.
Night any and every chance that they get. Not like Jalen scored, or Kobe scored all 81 on Jalen, just 20 on 7 of 10 shooting. Most Pete got it the worst. Kobe scored 24 on him. Anyway, Jalen scored an interview.
And had Phil Jackson allowed him to continue to play against the Dallas Mavericks, the game in which he had something like 60 or 62 points through three quarters against the Mavericks, that most likely would have topped even this performance. As I've stated, Kobe's the greatest streak scorer that I've ever seen. When he gets hot, I've never seen any player who got hotter than him. Klay Thompson is close. Steph Curry is right there. Klay Thompson is right there. But Kobe's just a slight, maybe half notch above them in regards to when he gets hot. Because not only can he do it from three, but he can also do it from two, and he can drive the lane as well. So once again, his 81-point performance was most likely the most impressive regular season single game scoring performance that I've ever seen from start to finish.
Like Mamba, good day, my brother.
Man.
All right, sir.
I'm good, man.
Good to see you.
Good.
I heard a story. It didn't make me happy.
I see Kobe trying to conjure the Saturnian energies with his all black on. Just for you brothers who are paying attention, Kobe is a Luciferian, allegedly. He is a Luciferian. As you can see, he has on the all black, trying to conjure up the energy of a Tsar.
I
What's
made
that?
me cry.
What happened?
That you wore this shoe on a night that you scored 81 points in a basketball game.
That's true.
A new Lakers franchise mark. Listen to these fans, better than 18,000 up on their feet here at Staples Center. 81 points for Kobe.
I happened to be present that night. You probably didn't see me because I was looking at the back of your name.
Yeah, he damn sure did not see you, Jalen, because you were not where you were supposed to be, which was in front of him guarding your man. Jalen Rose couldn't guard a damn statue. Always on TV talking shit. The most defense he ever played was when his opponent went up for his jump shot. Jalen Rose would try to stick his foot underneath the shooter as he was coming down. That was his favorite defensive maneuver. He did it to Kobe Bryant in the finals. He also did to Michael Jordan in the '98 playoffs. So Jalen Rose, he liked to play dirty. But once again, brothers, pay very close attention to many of these top-level athletes. They are Luciferians. I know a lot of the brothers are into that Kemet shit. Most of them don't really understand the Kemetic mystery school systems and the philosophies that were practiced by the people of ancient Kemet. They venerated Nimrod, a.k.a. Asar. When you see these people dressed in all black today, they are Saturnian. Particularly when they're of great fame and acclaim, they worship and venerate Saturn. Saturn is the Roman name for Nimrod. Why is that? Because when Asar, or Osiris as he's conventionally known, was on the run from Shem, who was tracking him down, he fled to Italy. And he tried to hide out amongst the region of 7 mountains or 7 hills that became known as Rome later on. Back then it was known as Saturnia. That is why the city of Rome is so venerated today. They formed the Vatican in that region in commemoration of Nimrod and the apostasy, the form of worship that he was able to concoct along with his father Cush, or as he was known in the Roman system as Janus, or the god of the keys and the doorways. All right? So the character of Nimrod is worshipped all over the earth. In India as Shiva, in the Semitic cultures as Baal, in Egypt or Kemet as Asar, in the Italian peninsula region as Saturn. In Greece, he was Kronos, so on and so forth. And when you see these people in high entertainment, whether it be sports, music, etc., and they're rocking the all black, it is normally in a ritualistic or for a ritualistic purpose.
The name and number all night. So, how special was that night, and did that have something to do with you wanting to re-release this shoe in particular?
Well, yeah, I mean, that night was very special, and, the fact that I was playing in the one, makes that shoe have added significance, because I felt like I was building.
Let me also say that symbol that Kobe has for his company, that logo, is just a stylized goat head. Okay? That's all that is for Kanum. That's a stylized goat head, or who they call today the Baphomet.
My game anew, and which then led to 81 and all the other games that I had, because I was in the gym really, really working hard. And so the shoe has special significance to me because of that, because of the stitching, because of kind of building everything from scratch. And then you throw the 81 in there and puts it over the top.
Muse Cage Basketball Network recently released a new piece entitled The Game of Stars, focusing on the All-Star games. How serious did you take the All-Star game?
I remember my last All-Star game. We're in the locker room, and Popovich, before the game, has a brilliant idea of letting each player diagram plays in a timeout. Right? And all the guys are like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, great. And I'm sitting there like, we're out of the play. We ain't making no playoffs at that point. It's my last year, right? So I really don't even, So I said, Pop, if I was competing with you guys for the playoffs, I'd tell you that that's a horrible idea, and I'm not doing that at all. I want to see you draw every play in every single timeout, because I want to see what you run.
Absolutely.
As opposed to you seeing what I'm thinking in my head and what I'm drawing up, that's not happening.
Well, Kobe is military-minded, and he's a three-dimensional thinker. So he would be the only one thinking on that level. To be quite frank with you, most of the players in the NBA today don't think on that level. Kobe is the last, or was the last, of that breed of player from the 80s and 90s into the early 2000s who looked at the entire season as warfare. And any play designed was something that he would seal away in his mind for future reference. That's something that he learned playing against the Michael Jordans and the John Stocktons and the Karl Malones and Charles Barkleys. And when Kobe states that Michael Jordan is like a big brother to him, he's talking about in the sense that he showed him the ropes in regards to ascending up the ladder of Luciferianism, the master and the apprentice. Like back in the day when Kanye West had that song about Jay-Z, My Big Brother, right? That's what he was referring to. Jay-Z showed him the ropes on how to ascend up the Luciferian ladder. That's what Michael Jordan did for Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan's a 33rd degree Mason as well.
Steve Kerr just recently did that in the huddle.
Yeah.
Allow a couple of players to draw up plays. And some people felt like it was a disrespect to the opponent.
At the end of the day, guys got to play and compete.
And also at the end of the day, what Steve Kerr was really saying is that he's tapped out. And he's either going to retire at the end of this year or the end of next year. Watch for that, brothers.
So, I think it's more disrespectful that they beat him like a drum, personally.
Exactly. And I would expect Kobe to say that because he is a very pragmatic dude. He gets right to the point. People are so worried about everyone's feelings. If you're offended by what they did, then don't get blown out. At the very least, don't get blown out. Because if you keep the game close down the stretch, that's going to force Steve Kerr to grab the clipboard.
Perpetual lottery team?
Yeah, it shouldn't be worried about that sort of stuff, right? But if you do feel disrespected, that's cool. You're right to do that. But, use it as motivation, come back and beat him the next time.
If Irvin Magic Johnson, who I affectionately call a Hall of Fame mogul, reached out to you to help them,
you need to call him the Hall of Fame mascot. Because, and I stated this in another video, I believe the video on Magic Johnson and the tampering issue. Magic Johnson is one of the great hucksters in sports history. Has people believing that he's just a great businessman, when really he's just a great face for other people's corporate ideas. They let him get about 1% and then he cashes in. That's how the game works. It's like when people thought that Jay-Z owned the Nets and he just had a deal to buy 0.001% of the Nets and sit in the front row with Beyonce. People truly don't understand the upper levels of this corporate world. When I say the corporate world, I mean the global corporation and how they view so-called black people and how they wage economic war against so-called blacks. And they trot many of these affluent, high-level entertainers out and make you think that they're recipients of respect, and they're really not. It's just a dog and pony show. All right. Magic Johnson is extremely charismatic, which is what makes him usable as a face. And don't get me wrong, he's been able to flip certain things like, being a part owner of the Dodgers and being involved with Magic Johnson Theaters and Starbucks. But he didn't have the seed money behind those corporations. Believe me, there are high-level bankers that are backing Magic Johnson, always have been, or have been at least for the last 25 plus years.
Recruit free agents, because this is a big summer for your Lakers. You got 2 max cap spots open. You got some young talent trying to get back to the championship level. What's your availability in helping the Lakers recruit free agents?
Recruit free agents. You shouldn't need recruiting to come in. Right? It takes a special person to want to play for this franchise and take the pressure that comes along with playing for this franchise. It's a brand thing. The Lakers stand for excellence and stand for winning. We don't hang division banners. You know what I'm saying? We don't do that. You don't retire everyone's jersey, you retire Hall of Fame jersey. The pressure of following Magic's footsteps and myself and like the dynasty that we've had, it takes a special person to do that. And if I need to convince you to come here to carry that legacy forward, you ain't the one to be here.
I probably agree with that. And I have to say that Kobe's mindset is a mindset that a lot of people are not fully going to grasp or understand in regards to establishing the pecking order of the NBA. His mentality is, if I have to beg you, that automatically is going to put you in an authoritative position over me when you get here, and I can't have that. And if I do beg you and you don't come here, you have a mental advantage over me when I face you on the court. So either you want to be here or you don't. It's very similar to the dynamic in a relationship when someone is always trying to initiate little silly arguments so that they can see if they can get you to apologize or to beg them to let you back into their good graces. After a while, it's obvious that their total focus is more on seeing if they can break you down mentally rather than being a productive dynamic. And I believe that is where Kobe's mind is at in regards to quote-unquote recruiting. Now, other people will have a different philosophy, and that's a reflection of their mentality. Kobe's mentality is that of a predator. So predators are not known for being submissive. As the so-called Black Mamba, as he calls himself, the deadliest serpent, it's not his job to get you to want to come be with him. I believe that the only player that he's even tried to reach out to was Dirk. And that is because that is someone that he viewed as a peer, much like a LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. Kobe views certain members of his class as peers, and the only one that he does not have an extreme amount of antipathy with or towards is Dirk Nowitzki. Why is that? Because until 2011, they had never even faced each other in the playoffs. Players like Kevin Garnett and many of these other players, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, who had been his peers, there was a high level of enmity between Kobe and those players, where there wasn't between him and Dirk. So I believe that he made an exception and kind of knew that there was no chance that Dirk was going to leave the Dallas Mavericks, but he tried anyway. But I understand where he's coming from. If you're spending all your time more concerned about who you're going to beg to come help you, that means that at a moment's notice they can leave. People have to willingly want to come be with you, no matter what the issue is in your life, whether it's to work with you or to be with you. You have to be meeting them halfway. You can't always be chasing people. You start chasing people, you're going to be chasing them your whole damn life. But anyway, peace.